This is the Lou and Manny Podcast, episode number 2. I am your host, Lou DB, as well as my co-host, Manny Rodriguez. I'm going to mess that up probably every week, but, I mean, it just sounds better when I say Ramirez because, that was a baseball player. But how you doing, Manny? You doing good?
I get that a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Good. At least I'm not the only one. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, this is recapping the NFL free agency period, which was, of course, another hectic time around the NFL. Some interesting trades too, which you don't see a whole lot in the NFL. We'll get to that and a lot more of our favorite signings, worst signings, some of the losers and winners of the free agency period. We're gonna, of course, talk about March Madness as the brackets have been released. We're going to talk about the NHL, some of the playoff races. The season is coming to an end, as well as the NBA. We're going to talk some Steph Curry. Manny will get to talk about his Knicks for a little bit, coming off a nice little hot streak for them, and a whole lot more here on the Lou and Manny Podcast. But first, we really want to start off in the NFL as the free agency kicked underway last week. A lot of interesting moves. You're seeing a lot of the same teams really dive into free agency. Most of the other teams really like to stay quiet, a.k.a. the teams that make the playoffs.
Like the Patriots?
Like the Patriots, like the Carolina Panthers. Most of the teams that really, the Green Bay Packers, Steelers, I mean, these are teams that know how to take care of their own and really don't dive, head first into free agency like some teams do, a.k.a. me and Manny's teams, the Eagles and Giants. But we're going to talk about 3 winners. First is what we're going to start off with. Teams that really had some success based on the moves they made. So obviously, I would consider the Patriots and Panthers winners in free agency because they didn't get involved. But we're going to talk about it based on transactions. So, Manny, who were a few teams that you looked at that had a lot of success in free agency?
Well, Lou, I thought that the Giants they spent a lot of money.
They did.
But we'll see in the long run how it works out. So I definitely do think that the Giants are winners. Also, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Oakland Raiders, they had great signings. Of course, with the Giants, they re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul to a 1-year, $10.5 million contract.
Which is nice. It's a prove-it kind of deal.
Yes. They signed Norris Jenkins away from the LA Rams. They signed him to 5 years, $62.5 million.
Which, by the way, I'm just going to estimate where he's making the money around. It's similar to Patrick Peterson type money. So he's getting paid a lot of money to produce for the Giants. But yeah, that's a nice signing.
The Giants, they stole Damon Harrison away from the Jets. So
Very sneaky pickup.
He trades green for blue.
Mm-hmm.
Call them snacks. That's great. And the biggest signing probably for the Giants was defensive end Olivier Vernon, signing a 5-year, $85 million contract with $52.5 million guaranteed.
I mean, that's a lot of money, but for a 25-year-old that's coming off his best year, 7.5 sacks, and a Miami defense that really no one could get to the pass rush, no one could get to the quarterback except for him, including a line with Ndamukong Suh and Cameron Wake. He was the most efficient guy there. I think money-wise, the Giants, they may be a little spend too much, but most people do in free agency. I really like the Janoris Jenkins move, though. He's a really aggressive corner, but what's funny about this is he's kind of a trendsetter now for guys like, in Buffalo, Stephon Gilmore is going to have to get paid next year, and this kind of sets the bar as to where Gilmore is going to get paid. So it's always interesting to see how some players impact other guys' contracts. But
yeah, you say Stephon Gilmore, Tyrann Mathieu. These are guys that are going to have to get paid, some of these young up-and-coming corners. What about the Jaguars, though? I didn't put them on my list, but this is a team that made some nice moves. They got Malik Jackson, who's a great pickup, and Tayshaun Gibson, too, who I think is a very solid safety. Yeah, defensive end Malik Jackson from the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. He signed a contract with the Jaguars, $15 million per year.
Wow.
Also,
I'm not saying that Malik Jackson's overrated, but Von Miller definitely helped a lot. I mean, when you have a guy like him and DeMarcus Ware on the line, there's only so many guys you can really, you can't have double, 2 guys on everyone. So, Jackson definitely got a lot of single coverage, but I think Von Miller definitely got him paid a little bit.
As you said, Tayshaun Gibson, he signed with Jacksonville. Mercedes Lewis re-signed with the
It's been there forever, jeez.
Yeah, he has. And who else? Chris Ivory?
Chris Ivory. Do you like that signing? I mean, I really like TJ Yeldon. I mean, this is a guy that came into his rookie year, had over 700 yards rushing and almost 300 receiving, so he was just under the 1,000-yard mark from scrimmage. But he's a guy that reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell, where you can build around him. Do you like the Chris Ivory move? Is it more of a? Do you think that's going to more be a timeshare, or how do you think that situation is going to play out?
I like TJ Yeldon. I think it's going to be a timeshare.
Okay.
They'll split the snaps.
And it's big because Jacksonville they've had good luck with running backs.
Right.
They've had Chris Ivory now. They have T.J. Yeldon.
They had Maurice
years
Jones-Drew.
ago, and Maurice Jones-Drew.
Fred Taylor too had success even before him.
Yes. So I like what the Jaguars did.
Do you think they're ready to compete this year? I mean, this has been the doormat of the NFL. Besides Cleveland, sorry Cleveland, but this is the team. Whenever you see a schedule, Giants versus Jags, all right, that's a win. It just seems like every time you kind of just write them off. Is this the year that the Jaguars kind of take a big step? Because you saw a lot of production on offense with all their young pieces. It just seems like they needed some of the defensive guys now to step up. Or you still think it's maybe a few years away? I mean, the AFC's weak.
That's a great question because they have Blaine Gabbert, great quarterback.
Blake Bortles.
Oh my gosh.
Blake Gabbert's the one that
he's
didn't
he's in San Francisco now.
Yep.
Bortles. They have Allen Robinson out of Penn State.
Who's a stud. I mean, they stole him in the second round.
Absolutely.
And Alan Hearns.
Yes.
Undrafted.
And now they have these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me again in week 1.
Yeah. That's the thing. Obviously, you don't never want to make huge predictions in March, or else you're going to have Dream Team Part 2, Philadelphia Eagles 2011, when they were deemed to be the Super Bowl favorites after signing Nnamdi Asomugha and all those guys.
Or this past year.
Yeah, okay, true. That's true. Some teams were picking the Eagles. Some people were picking Sam Bradford to win MVP this year. Yeah, that was brutal. But I think the Jaguars did a lot of good things. They had so much money to spend, including the NFL giving them, I think it was an extra like $6 million in cap space. But when you bring in a guy like Malik Jackson, he had 5 sacks last year. He's a guy that can play 4-3 defensive tackle or 3-4 DN, so he's a guy that's very versatile. You got Dante Fowler coming back, your third overall draft pick last year, who tore his ACL in training camp. You're adding some nice pieces on the defensive line, and in the secondary, you got Tayshaun Gibson now. Also another signing, Prince Amukamara, who they stole away from the Giants. Even though he's been battling injuries most of his career, he's a nice young guy that has some upside that you can put in the secondary. So I think the Jaguars are ready to compete in the AFC. I think them and a team that I really liked that you would like as well is the Oakland Raiders, who are going to take a big step. They had a really nice signing with Bruce Irvin. I think that's huge to go across Khalil Mack.
That's exactly my point. That was exactly the point I was going to. Having Bruce Irvin, pretty much mentored Khalil Mack. Second year, third year.
This will be his third year.
Third year out of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a stud for the Raiders. Now that Justin Tuck has retired, maybe Khalil Mack will be looking for that Super Bowl champion role model, and I think he found one in Bruce Irvin.
Irvin has the experience. He's been to 2 Super Bowls
with the
already.
Seahawks.
Yep. Seattle's a team, we'll talk about in a little bit. I have them on my loser list. But the Raiders made some nice moves. I think Irvin's going to be great. He can, he had 5.5 sacks last year, and he's really good in coverage. He's a versatile guy, kind of like Khalil Mack. So the Raiders adding to their young core of guys, kind of like the Jaguars. But a few winners for me, the Philadelphia Eagles. Not based purely off free agency, but more just what they did the entire week. They traded away Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell for the 8th overall pick in the draft, and Miami moved down to number 13, which to me is huge in this draft. The difference between 8 and 13 is huge. Eagles GM Howie Roseman even said, there's a real drop-off after 10. So lucky for you, your Giants pick at 10. They're going to get a nice player, but after that, it is a bit of a drop-off talent-wise. So I think that was huge. And the fact that Miami moved down 5 spots and allowed the Eagles to get rid of that entire contract from Byron Maxwell. The fact that Miami's taking that all on is ridiculous. Maxwell developed the name Burnt Toast in Philadelphia, so that just kind of goes to show what kind of year he had. He definitely was a product of the Seattle defense. He's a good corner that can play in some zone coverage, but Miami's another team that likes to play man, and he really kind of failed on that side of the ball, on that in that scheme in Philadelphia. So, but I think that was a great trade. The fact that DeMarco Murray, another guy that you don't have to pay anymore, you got rid of that salary to Tennessee, and you moved up 13 spots in the 4th. Say what you want about how bad, what a rat you can say about Howie Roseman is, and how the Eagles shouldn't have reinstated him as GM after getting rid of Chip Kelly. He's done an excellent job. He is a numbers guy. Even Chip Kelly said that he was great with salaries, but he never called him a football guy, and that's where we have to keep an eye on is what he does now with these picks in the draft. The Eagles own a lot of draft picks this year, but Howie Roseman's a guy that has drafted Marcus Smith in the past, the outside linebacker out of Louisville, who has literally done absolutely nothing in the NFL and will probably be on his way out the door of Philadelphia this year. So we'll see how that works out, but I thought the Rodney McLeod signing was huge. A very underrated safety for the Rams. Reminds me a lot of Brian Dawkins, actually. He started all 64 games in his 4 years with St. Louis. He was undrafted, yet he has been an incredible piece in that secondary. So, and of course Brandon Brooks. The Eagles needed offensive linemen. So there's my little spiel about the Eagles. I think another team, and tell me if you agree, because they did spend a lot of money on Brock Osweiler, but I think the Texans were a quarterback away from being a serious contender in the AFC. And I think with Brock there now and also Lamar Miller to replace Arian Foster, I think Houston's ready to take this AFC South and maybe make a run in the playoffs. I mean, they don't have to deal with Brian Hoyer anymore, which is an addition by subtraction.
Well, yeah, because what Brian Hoyer did in Wild Card Weekend was absolutely repulsive.
Yeah, it was abysmal. It was pathetic.
But yeah, they don't have to rely on Brian Hoyer anymore. They have Brock Osweiler, who did well those four starts that he had with the
Broncos. 7, I think.
Where was I for 3 weeks?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he came in for 1 for the Chiefs, but he got benched week 17, which kind of devastated him, and found his way out the door in Denver.
But yeah, you're right. I think the Texans and the Colts will be the teams to look out for in the South.
In the South.
Of course, the Colts last season didn't have a great year. We went to go watch them week 1 against the Bills, and
that was kind of the start of it.
Yeah,
you could kind of see, this might not be. I mean, because everyone was excited. They brought in Frank Gore. Yeah. They brought in Andre Johnson.
Who they cut.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of older guys last year. 2 former Eagles, Trent Cole and Todd Harrimans, who didn't really do much of anything and are both out of town now. So.
And they have Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I mean, Luck struggled last year too.
Yeah.
We can't. I mean, as Luck is kind of the poster child for the NFL. He's the next up and coming guy. He really struggled last year. He turned the football over a lot. He held onto the ball too long, and of course that's a product of a bad offensive line. But also, he's got to stop turning the ball over. You've seen him put the Colts in holes throughout his career. Obviously, he gets them out. I mean, look at that Chiefs wildcard game a few years back. But he really dug them in that hole. He's had a lot of interceptions in his career. But I think the Texans are ready to take a step. Osweiler's going to benefit a lot from having DeAndre Hopkins on the one side. They still have to, me, get another guy. Their third-round pick last year, Jalen Strong out of Arizona State, to me is a guy that they really need to take a big step this year. He's a big guy, a red zone target. But I applaud Osweiler for leaving Denver, honestly. I feel that they took one too many blindside hits on him, really, when you kind of look at it. I kind of like to point back to the famous video of when Brock thought he was coming in a few years back. He goes to grab his helmet, looks out, and sees Peyton running out after being up at least 30 points. He simply throws his hand in the air in disbelief. I think being benched week 17, even Malik Jackson said, I think that really took a toll on Brock. He really thought he had control of that offense, and Peyton had 17 picks in 10 games. They really thought he was done, and to me, if Osweiler was quarterback, they still would have won the Super Bowl. Peyton didn't do anything to change that fact, honestly.
It was the defense.
Exactly. So I think with the benching, with kind of seeing Peyton deteriorate talent-wise and, arm strength-wise, I think it was just enough was enough for Brock, and he stopped contacting his coaches and players after teammates after 2 weeks before free agency started, so that's kind of when Elway got the picture that Brock wouldn't be back. He had $37 million is guaranteed in his contract, including a $12 million signing bonus, so that Houston definitely paid for a quarterback, but this is what you got to do now. I mean, you're going to see Tyler Taylor for Buffalo next year. He's going to get paid a lot of money. You saw what Kirk Cousins and Sam Bradford got this year. Bradford's got $26 million guaranteed in 2 years. He has a losing record. He's 25-37 in his career. Never been in the playoffs. You're still seeing guys like that get paid because there aren't that many options. Less than half the league has a decent starting quarterback. So when you can grab a guy like Brock Osweiler, who's only 25, has tremendous upside, and learned from one of the best quarterbacks of all time, that's huge, and Houston needed a quarterback. That's really all they needed.
Yeah.
So, and they also got Lamar Miller, who's a very nice pickup. I thought Miami made a mistake not letting him go. So Houston was definitely a winner for me. So, And again, the other team, I didn't list another team. I agreed with Manny in saying the Raiders. But any team that didn't make a move, I applaud you because you've seen in the past what team has really benefited from going, deep into free agency. I can't think of one. I mean, you've seen teams make one nice move, but there's no team really that's dove deep into the free agency that's ever had success.
Not that I can think of.
And I'm not saying the Eagles and the Giants and those teams aren't going to have success.
They might.
Because the Giants have a quarterback. They have now pieces on defense. At least if you're going to buy into free agency, go with younger guys that can at least grow with your team. Don't go for those veteran guys that are kind of on their last legs and trying to get one last big contract. I like what the Giants did. Olivier Vernon's only 25. Janoris Jenkins has only been in the league for 4 years. You get JPP, who's still young. Now you're going to have to probably address offense in the draft. I think they're going to try to draft the tackle. Maybe if Ezekiel Elliott falls, which I don't think he's going to at this point, I'm jumping all over him if I'm New York. The good thing about that team is they have a quarterback.
Yeah, we have a two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Rubbing him, but that's the thing too. Like, if you have a franchise quarterback and you're ready to win now, okay, now I can understand that. But if you're a team like Philadelphia, it's like I think they're going to compete for the NFC East this year. But I think the ultimate goal is trying to compete to win the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. And they're far off right now. They have a lot of young pieces that are going to have to grow. Why not just restart at quarterback too? You move up to 8 now. Maybe try to get up even higher or hope and pray that Goff or Wentz fall to you at 8. It just doesn't make sense to throw huge money at Sam Bradford and Chase Daniels, who is now the 25th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. He has 1 career touchdown and 1 career interception in 2 starts. Doesn't make sense to me at all. And that brings us to our next topic. We're going to try to speed this one up a little bit. We spent a lot of time in the winners, but 3 losers. Manny, who do you think some teams really kind of lost the free agency period?
Cleveland Browns.
Of course.
Definitely lost.
They lose in everything.
They do. They thought that they drafted a great quarterback in Johnny Manziel. Of course, that project didn't work out. Johnny is now a free agent.
Rough.
Even called my fantasy football team one year Manziel the God, because I actually thought Manziel was going to do well.
I think everyone was drinking the Manziel Kool-Aid with how exciting he was at Texas A&M.
Yes.
He had that Tebow-esque factor to him where you just were drawn to the screen every time he was on the field.
Also, the Browns, they just let go of a bunch of guys, including their star center, Alex Mack. Now he's in Atlanta.
Yep.
Also, in my losers, I have the Denver Broncos, because the Broncos lost Malik Jackson.
A lot of key pieces.
They lost Brock Osweiler.
They lost Danny Trevathan.
Trevathan as well. He's in Chicago.
And Brandon Marshall is also going to be a restricted free agent for the Broncos, so we'll see if they can retain at least one of their starting linebackers. Manny, another team that you had on the losers column was the New York Jets. What do you think you saw that you didn't really like in their free agency period?
But I didn't like how they gave up Snacks rather easily to
That's a great nickname.
Yes,
Snacks.
To the crosstown rival New York Giants. They also don't have a quarterback. We don't know if Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to come back. We don't know if they're going to pick up Colin Kaepernick. We're not sure if Geno Smith is going to be the quarterback, if they're going to continue with that project.
They drafted Bryce Petty too last year out of Baylor, who's a raw guy, but he's got a lot of arm talent, so they're definitely up in the air.
Yeah, and I just don't like what the Jets did right now with their current quarterback situation.
Okay. A few of my winners and losers. Definitely one, I would say, is... the Seahawks they lost because I think they really needed to retain Bruce Irvin. A team that's so cap-stricken like them, they kind of have to pick and choose who they want. Obviously, they're trying to work out a deal with Michael Bennett right now, but, Irvin was a young guy that really was key to that offense, and when you find gems like that in the first round, it seems tough to let him go. Also, Russell Okung, their franchise left tackle, is another guy he's representing himself in free agency, and he's asking for a lot of money that maybe Seattle can't afford if they want to do a deal with Bennett. So I think Seattle was definitely a loser in this period.
Side note, Okung has been in talks with the Giants.
Has he?
Yes.
Okay. So, exactly. If the Giants can land Okung, too, to go with Eric Flowers, they're in a nice position, I would say. Better than maybe any NFC East team, because when you kind of look at it, to me, Dallas... They have pieces in each, position, but they just don't really have that, they have a lot of guys that are injury prone. Who knows what Romo's going to be coming off all those collarbone injuries. Philadelphia, their quarterback situation. If you don't have a quarterback, it's going to be hard to compete. And to me, they have the worst quarterback in the NFC East. I think that's pretty easily, and who knows what Washington's going to do if Kirk Cousins last year was a fluke or not. But going back to losers, I think the Broncos, I agree with you because of basically everything that happened. You just can't lose all those pieces and expect to be the exact same team. On defense, their secondary is still loaded. They still have Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, but to me, they needed to keep Brock Osweiler around. They really did. They drafted him intending on him replacing Peyton Manning when he left on, but they hung on to Manning too long, and enough was enough for Osweiler, and they really crapped the bet on that one. So. And the Titans are the other team. To me, they had a lot of cap space. They didn't make any really huge moves besides the trade with Philadelphia to get DeMarco Murray. They ended up they took on his entire contract, and they actually restructured it a little bit, but he's got a lot more guaranteed now. But Murray, they moved down 13 spots in the fourth. They swapped fourth-round picks, but Mariota likes to, take snaps from the shotgun. They like to use their offense around that, and if they're going to implement read option with Mariota and Mike Mularkey's offense, Murray, again, is going to be in a similar offense to the one that he struggled in with Chip Kelly last year, where he had career lows in almost every aspect. He was averaging about, 3 yards per carry. He only had 700 yards on the season, 6 touchdowns. It was just a bad year for him. He's just not a guy that can line up in the shotgun and really have a whole lot of success, but to me, the Titans are a team that's probably going to end up doing a lot of that. So I don't think that move was really good. To me, you just don't spend money on guys that have had such a workload like Murray has and is at his age. You can find running backs anywhere. Look how the Bills found Carlos Williams in the 5th round. Look at the running backs in the playoffs last year. C.J. Anderson, where was he drafted? David Johnson, the Cardinals, 4th-round pickup out of Northern Iowa. Matt Jones and Alfred Morris for the Redskins. Both of those guys were low to not being drafted at all. So, I just think it's kind of dumb to, sign a big-name running back like that. Just my opinion. I'm just glad he's out of Philadelphia, though, because he was a locker room head case last year. So.
And he has that. No, he doesn't. That's on the Bills.
LeSean McCoy?
Yeah, LeSean McCoy. There we go.
Yeah, he's dealing with a lot.
Sometimes I still think LeSean McCoy's on the Eagles.
So I go back to those times too. There were a lot better times, but to me the Titans really didn't do so hot in that area. So I think they lost. Favorite signing, Manny, of the free agency period?
Well, I'm biased, of course.
Aren't we all?
My favorite signing was Olivier Vernon. Olivier Vernon, again, he signed a 5-year, $85 million contract, $52.5 million guaranteed with the New York Football Giants. I think it's a great signing, not only for Olivier, because he's getting paid, but it's also a great signing for the Giants, who had worse pass rush defense, couldn't sack a guy. Again, the best player on the New York Football Giants defense last year had 3.5 fingers. And only played for 7 games.
Yep.
So it's great, Olivier Vernon. I also do like, of course, Janoris Jenkins and Snacks Harrison getting signed by the Giants. But I think Olivier Vernon signing is huge for the Big Blue. I'm
going to stay in Jersey, and I'm going to say that Matt Forte of the Jets was a really nice signing. The Jets like to use their running backs in the passing attack. You look at the success Bilal Powell had in that area last year. They re-signed him, but they got Forte, who to me has been the best receiving running back in quite some time. 44 receptions last year in 13 games, but the year before he had over 100 catches as a running back. That's top receiver reception totals. And the year before that, he had over 70. So, you look at the fit. I think it's really a good one for New York and for Forte. Hopefully, they can try to find a quarterback there, because really that offense now has a lot of nice pieces. I think it was smart to let Ivory go and replace him with Forte. Also, you got Powell back, and you brought in a young guy in Kyrie Robinson who can be used in red zone situations. So I think the Jets signing Forte and some nice running backs were good. Worst signing, Manny?
The worst signing for me was by the Dolphins. Of course, they let go the aforementioned Olivier Vernon. And now probably I would say their star defensive line player is Mario Williams, who signed a 2-year deal. I don't understand why you would sign Mario Williams and let go Olivier Vernon.
It doesn't make any sense at all, especially when Williams is coming off his worst year.
Here in Buffalo,
He was ranked as the 93rd pass rusher according to Pro Football Focus last year. I mean, talk about a drop-off. How do you sign a guy like that with that money?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
None of their moves made sense, really.
That's true. What about you, Lou?
Chase Daniel from the Eagles. Normally, I don't like to bash my own team, unless it's about the quarterback position, because we are so opposite on this, me and the Eagles.
I love bashing the Eagles.
Chase Daniel is the 25th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. He has 1 career touchdown and 1 career pick in 2 starts. I do remember he had a pretty impressive game against San Diego 2 years ago in Week 17. They won the game, but you see Daniel, he's an undersized quarterback. He doesn't have a huge arm. He does have some mobility, and Doug Peterson's very familiar with him, coaching, being the offensive coordinator in Kansas City last year, but it just doesn't make sense to throw all that money at him when you still need to address quarterback in the draft. To me, no matter what, you have to draft the guy in the top 3 rounds. You don't have a second-round pick, so if you're not drafting 1 8, which if Carson Wentz or Jared Goff are there, I don't care. I'm running to the table and taking one of them and putting them on the card. But you still have to get a guy. So I think really the amount of money they gave him, it's not backup money. Bradford is a very short leash right now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of reports said that Daniels was coming in to compete for the starting job in training camp, but then Peterson came out and said Bradford's our guy. But to me, it's only going to take a few bad games where they put Daniels in, and obviously we know that Bradford's going to get hurt because he's only
he always gets hurt.
He always gets hurt. So he's had shoulder injuries last year and 2 torn ACLs. So he's he's definitely injury prone. So I think the Daniels move, makes sense in that area. You need a reliable backup, but how reliable is Chase Daniel? He was a Heisman candidate, finalist out of Mizzou. He had a lot of success with Jeremy Maclin, but the problem is the Eagles don't have Jeremy Maclin, so that rapport means nothing. But it was just a stupid move to me. I think that there's other options, and I would rather have a backup that's a guy like Sanchez, and you have a rookie in place as your third guy. But, Peterson wanted his guy, and I guess I can understand that. But we're going to stick to quarterbacks real quick. If you had to guess now, the Broncos traded for Mark Sanchez. They gave up a 7th-round pick in 2017, only $1 million guaranteed in his contract this year. Is Mark Sanchez going to end up starting for Denver?
I have no idea. I really don't.
What are some options, you think, for Denver? They want Kaepernick.
They do want Kaepernick. They have Sanchez.
Do they draft one? The thing is, you're at 31.
Do they draft Hackenberg?
I don't like Hackenberg. I'm not a fan of Hackenberg. What if Paxton Lynch... I'm just laying down a scenario. I don't think Lynch is going to fall to 31 in the first round, but if he does, I'm jumping all over that. He's a guy very similar to Brock Osweiler.
He's huge.
6'7".
Yeah.
He's an animal, only he's a lot faster than Osweiler. You saw Memphis really implement the read option a lot with Paxton Lynch last season at Memphis. So if Lynch falls, even though I think if he falls to LA, they're going to jump all over him. But, if he falls to 31 and I'm Denver, I don't have a lot of holes. I would probably draft Lynch. What do you think about that?
I would too. He's 6'7", 245 pounds out of Memphis. Of course, Memphis is not exactly the biggest football school, but something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I would much rather have Paxton Lynch than Mark Sanchez.
I agree.
Start at quarterback.
239 rushing yards last year and 2 touchdowns. Get this, the year before, Paxton Lynch had 321 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. So he can definitely move. He compares himself to Cam Newton. Stature-wise, he's not as big. He's as tall, but that's very interesting. It's very enticing to get a guy. He's very raw. He's not really strong in the play calling aspect. Most of the plays came from the sidelines from the coordinators, but he's a guy, if Denver could find a way to, I would jump all over it. But to me, the more realistic option is you have Sanchez compete with either a Kaepernick if you can find a way to make a trade for him, or maybe try to, Denver's been talking with Fitzpatrick's agent, but they don't want to sign Fitzpatrick to the salary that he wants, so it's probably going to be a competition, and I think they really whiffed at not, paying Osweiler. I really think that they missed out on that one, so I would love to see Sanchez be their quarterback, but we'll see what happens. With the Jets...
What about Tebow?
Oh, no. I've seen many people bring that up already, and there's no chance. I'm sorry. Even though, what a story that would be. I would love it, but as a Broncos fan, I don't know. What do you think? They're not going to entertain that option. They're not. But, that would be fun. It really would. And considering what they did what Peyton Manning did with that offense last year, it's hard to say that they wouldn't still be Super Bowl contenders with Tebow at quarterback. Or is that or would they be significantly worse?
That might be a stretch. saying that they're Super Bowl.
But look at what Peyton did with them last year. He was
okay, but Peyton also had a defense to back that up. Malik Jackson isn't there anymore. Danny Trevathan isn't there.
You think
anymore.
their defense is going to be significantly worse?
Significantly, no.
They're going to take a step back.
Yes.
They're not going to be the dominant number one defense. It's hard to say that, though, with Von Miller on your defense. And that secondary, their secondary, they have 3 corners that could be number 1 corners anywhere else. Bradley Roby, Chris Harris, and Aqib Talib would be number 1 corners on a lot of other teams.
That's true.
So, they still got pieces in place. But what about the Jets? Are they going to retain Fitzpatrick? They met with RG3.
They did meet with RG3. They're still talking to Fitzpatrick. But
do you think the RG3 is a legit candidate to be going to New York, or are they using it more as leverage to try to maybe push things with Fitz?
Probably use it as leverage because I would sign Fitzpatrick in a heartbeat. Fitzpatrick had a great season with the Jets last year.
True.
And I don't think RG3 could, go into the Jet system and
that media spotlight too.
The media spotlight that is New York, or East Rutherford, and the Jets should retain Fitzpatrick. Maybe, yeah, I guess you could say that RG3 using the RG3 talks, or maybe even draft talks could say, hey, Fitz, come on, man. Like,
does Gino has a shot at all of maybe retaining his starting job?
Not if Fitz is there.
No. I don't know. It seems. I would like the RG3 signing, honestly, for them. I think someone needs to take a chance on him. Reports from Twitter, from a lot of NFL analysts, are saying, though, that really Kaepernick's kind of holding everyone else back in the quarterback market because they're still waiting to see what happens with him in the trade market because Cleveland wants Kaepernick. Denver is trying to make a play on him. New York, the Jets, possibly. So he's kind of holding back guys like RG3 because everyone else is focused on Cap right now, and they're waiting to maybe have a second option with RG3.
And Kaepernick has even gone out and said that he would enjoy playing in Cleveland, which is something
which
that
is surprising.
Hear.
You would not expect that.
Speaking of Cleveland,
yeah,
what's going on?
I don't know. I love their head coaching hire in Hugh Jackson. Yes. I think if anyone has a chance to turn around Cleveland, he does. He had Oakland in the right direction before he got fired for really no reason a few years back. The Carson Palmer move really hurt him because, they were 4-2. They were in first place in the AFC West with Jason Campbell as their starting quarterback a few years back. They went 8-8 in that season. He got fired. To me, that was a huge step. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. The Raiders, besides last year, have kind of been irrelevant since Jackson was fired. So he needs to bring in a quarterback. And, it's interesting, though, to see what they think about the quarterback class in the draft because they're trying to pursue Kaepernick and other veteran quarterbacks. So maybe Hugh Jackson isn't crazy about Carson Wentz or Goff, or maybe they're looking to draft one in the later rounds because if you're making a trade for Kaepernick, I don't see why then you can justify, if Kaepernick's not a stopgap guy where, he's an old veteran where you bring in a transition while you draft Wentz. If you're bringing in Kaepernick, you're taking a shot at him as your franchise quarterback. So that, to me, says that they don't like Wentz or Goff at this point. So, but they're losing a lot of players. The Manziel experiment, like you said earlier, it flopped.
Yeah.
They have a lot of pieces that they need to fill, and this just kind of seems like the trend in Cleveland ever since they returned to the franchise. In '96, so poor Cleveland. That's all I can really say. Trades: DeMarco Murray to the Titans.
Just recap the trades.
DeMarco Murray to the Titans for a swapping of 4th-round picks. Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell to the Dolphins, and the Eagles' 1st-round pick for the Dolphins' 1st-round pick, which is 8th overall. That was really those are the big moves. Philadelphia was involved in both big trades. Colin Kaepernick trade rumors, of course. The Broncos, according to NFL.com, right now see Kaepernick as a guy they would trade a 4th-round pick for. That's the value they think he is in the trade market. Unfortunately, Denver doesn't have a 4th-round pick, so they might have to overpay a 3rd. The problem is San Fran is valuing him at a much higher cost. So they're at a standoff right now, and I'll see who blinks first with that. But those are the trade rumors around the NFL.
Something that'll make you angry as an Eagles fan. Okay. The NFL said that the Kansas City Chiefs, if you didn't hear, has to forfeit a 2016 3rd-round pick and a 2017 6th-round pick for violating the anti-tampering policy with wide receiver Jeremy Maclin. Not only does KC have to forfeit those 2 picks, the organization was fined $250,000.
Wow.
Andy Reid was fined $75,000. And John Dorsey was fined $25,000.
it is frustrating because to me, that is huge in having that extended period of time where Philadelphia could have talked to Macklin more and tried to retain him. It is frustrating, but how many teams do you honestly think, tamper like this and really don't get away with it? Do you really think that Doug Peterson wasn't talking with Chase Daniels before the tampering period opened?
I think
absolutely he was.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Eagles, I might want to be a little bit nervous about that because the NFL might look into it. There's teams that probably do this all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just the NFL. The Chiefs got caught.
Yeah.
I'm upset, but I don't really think it was a deciding factor in Macklin choosing Kansas City over Philadelphia because money was money, and when it came down to it, and the Chiefs offered him $11 million per year instead of $9 million from Philadelphia, so Chip Kelly wasn't going to make a difference for him. Chip Kelly's as stubborn as it gets in the NFL. But that is interesting though that they lost a 3rd round pick and what was it, a 7th round in 2017?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
6th round.
6th round. Okay. So. That's big though. I mean, obviously Macklin's huge for that offense, but that's a lot to swallow for the Chiefs. All right, last thing we're gonna get to in the NFL before we move on to some other leagues. Free agency is kind of a time where you can kind of understand what some teams are thinking about in the draft too. So we're gonna kind of talk about how free agency affected the draft a little bit. Obviously, I just talked about a little bit in Cleveland, their quarterbacks. I think that Wentz and Goff are 2 really interesting prospects, but Cleveland might not like one of the 2 guys. In the latest mock draft on NFL.com, they have Cleveland taking Carson Wentz at 2, but if they try to go for Kaepernick, they might pass and maybe take a guy like Ezekiel Elliott at running back. They need a running back desperately. So here's the one I like to talk about because I think Elliott's going to end up in the NFC East. Whether it's Dallas at 4, Philadelphia at 8, or New York at 10. I think all 3 of them are really going to do their homework on Elliott, but how if you're Dallas with that offensive line, do you not add Elliott? You don't have many holes on offense or defense besides pass rush. Randy Gregory and Greg Hardy, both their futures are up in the air because of their character concerns. That's just the price you paid with that. But so they could go for a guy like Joey Bosa, but how do you not take a chance on Elliott with that offensive line? I mean, can you imagine how lethal that would be? As an Eagles and Giants fan, I would be nervous.
I would be.
And that offense, really nervous.
Yeah.
With Dez and Tony Romo, it's scary.
What else is there on the mock draft? Who's number 1?
Number 1 right now is Laramie Tunsil, offensive tackle from Ole Miss. Report, though, from Walter Football says that, and who knows how reliable they are. Obviously, they have some credibility in the NFL draft process, but they're saying right now that Jalen Ramsey, the corner out of Florida State, would be the favorite to go to Tennessee at number 1 instead of Tunsil. That would be interesting. The Titans do need some help in the secondary, but I don't know. It seems kind of far-fetched to take him first overall. Tunsil is a guy that he's to me the best tackle prospect there has been since Tyron Smith of the Cowboys in 2009. I really think Tunsil is that good. So. Tunsil's at 1 right now. Ramsey falls at number 3 to San Diego to go with. I mean, if they can add him with Jason Verrett, who they drafted in the 1st round 2 years back, who's had a really nice start to his career, that would be pretty lethal. Jared Goff at 7 to San Francisco. Do you think
Carson Wentz went number 2?
Carson Wentz went 2 to Cleveland
in this mock draft?
Yes. Is Goff a nice fit for San Fran and what Chip Kelly does, or do you think that Chip wants more of a mobile guy that he hasn't had the ability to work with in the NFL? Because look at the success he had with Mariota in Oregon and Dennis Dixon and Darren Thomas. Those are guys that had the abilities to run and use the read option, and Sam Bradford and Nick Foles didn't. So does it make sense to go Goff there?
I wouldn't think so.
If Wentz is there, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's got the speed, but Goff isn't really that. He's not a mobile guy.
Or maybe trade down for Paxton?
Okay. I like that option. I think that's really interesting, actually. And maybe a team like Philadelphia wants Goff. And Chip, is there any way Chip Kelly and Howie Roseman trade negotiate though? No way.
No.
I think the minute one of those guys call each other, the other's hanging up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but I mean, that's interesting though. Paxton Lynch, could the Niners move down and draft Paxton Lynch? That's a good point. Philadelphia at 8 gets Ezekiel Elliott to replace DeMarco Murray. What do you think about that?
That makes my soul sad as a Giants fan.
Do you want Elliott as a Giants fan?
Well,
me showing how easy it is to find running backs, but a guy like Elliott, it's not so easy.
Before free agency started, I thought Shaq Lawson should have been drafted by the Giants, or should be drafted by the Giants. Of course, now the Giants made all those moves, and it doesn't make sense if we draft Shaq Lawson now. So I wouldn't be mad if they drafted a running back or maybe even a wide receiver, because it doesn't look like Ruben Randall's coming back Maybe
He's a receiver, actually.
We could have
Laquan Treadwell.
We could have Laquan Treadwell along with Victor Cruz and some guy named Odell Beckham Jr.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Never heard of him. I guess he made some catch before, but I guess.
Or maybe he's just probably one of the best wide receivers in the game.
Yeah. Okay. Cruz his future's up in the air. He restructured his contract.
Yeah,
do you think he's gonna? Do you think he'll ever be back to the way he was a few years back when they made that incredible Super Bowl run? No. Is he done?
Since he tore his patella tendon on the Monday night or Sunday night game against the Eagles.
Sunday Night Football, yeah.
Against the Eagles at the Link. It's just been.
I remember that too. It was in the red zone.
It was in the end zone. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just been downhill from there. But there's only one way to find out. I still have some faith in Victor Cruz. I do believe, although it's not going to be often, I do believe he will be dancing in the end zone.
Doing the salsa once again.
Salsa, yeah.
Treadwell, though, there would be really interesting. They have New York taking Ronnie Stanley at 10, an offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, who a lot of people are saying is not that far off talent-wise to Laramie Tunsil, the Ole Miss tackle. So that would be a nice pickup to go across from Eric Flowers. That builds your offensive line, but it's not the sexy pick.
But also, if again with free agency, if the Giants somehow sign Russell Okung, how does that affect the drafting of Ronnie Stanley? Because they both play the same position, and we drafted Eric Flowers last season.
That gives you the ability here at 10 to draft best player available. Yeah, by addressing your needs in free agency, sometimes that'll come back to bite you by investing in free agency in needs instead of draft. See, this is my thing, because a lot of people say that, you really should always take the best player available in the draft, but to me the draft also is an opportunity for you to improve on positions that you need to improve on. To me, if you're at 10 and you need a running back way worse than you need a pass rusher, okay, maybe Shaq Lawson is a better option than someone else. But to me, like, if the talent, if it's not a huge drop off in your rankings, like if you already have two really legit pass rushers, which I think the Giants have, and I'm just using the Giants as an example, but say you have three legitimate starting receivers already and you need a tackle. To me, you got to take a tackle, though. Like, it doesn't make sense to have a guy that's going to be your fourth guy in a position instead of a need. So there's a balance. You have to, if there's a huge drop-off, then yes, you don't reach for a guy at 9 that should be going at, 21st.
Yeah,
But you got to have that balance, though. You got to at least address positions that you have a need at.
Yes, that's, to be honest, I'm going to sound like a 10-year-old now, but whenever I play Madden and I go into franchise mode, when I go into the draft, that's what I attend to.
Yeah, you address
my team needs, and the Giants. Well, not anymore. They don't need a defensive end anymore.
So now, with all the money you invest in JPP and Vernon, how do you justify now drafting Shaq Lawson? I don't think you can.
Maybe the Giants and the Giants. I don't think they need corners anymore. I think they're fine with Janoris Jenkins. Maybe and DRC. Maybe a linebacker. Maybe a safety. Offensive line. If the Giants draft a defensive end or somebody on the defensive line, I will personally go down to Chicago and smack whoever. Yeah, I will smack Roger Goodell first because he's the one that said it, and that will be my first instinct. But then I will have to go down to the front office.
Miles Jack, if he felled you, I mean that would be huge. But they have him going 5th right now to Jacksonville. He might be the best overall athlete and one of the best overall talents in this draft behind Bosa, honestly. I think he's that disruptive as a linebacker. He can play really a lot of positions. He's so athletic, they're saying, like, he can play running back, I mean, at this point. But, I mean, maybe the Giants could move back. There's not a lot of inside linebackers that you can justify going in the top 15. Darren Lee is really the first guy out of Ohio State that had a very good combine. He's a very athletic guy. He can be a Sam backer, or, he can really play any position in the 4-3 linebacker-wise. So maybe the Giants can move back. I mean, this is the thing too. You have to address that is, if we can maybe gain an extra pick or so by moving back, and you're just picking best player available, you might as well do that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. The Rams is the pick I really like. They have Paxton Lynch at 15. They have to address quarterback somehow. There's reports that RG3 would love to play in LA. But maybe they start over and just try to get a guy in the draft, which they haven't done. I mean, they drafted Sean Mannion last year out of Oregon State in the 4th round. But besides Sam Bradford, first overall in 2008, they haven't addressed quarterback, and they've completely ignored the position, besides trading for Nick Foles last year, which that project flopped. So Lynch here at 15 is interesting, but the Rams are a team that has all the talent at every position, but they just refuse to address the quarterback. So I think Lynch is a nice pick here. What does Detroit do to replace Calvin?
Well, according to this mock draft, you draft Laquan Treadwell out of Ole Miss.
They threw a lot of money at Marvin Jones. I mean, he's not, to me, he's a third guy. I can't believe that both him and Mohamed Sanu got paid a lot of money from, having really average years in Cincinnati. They're nice young talents, but I think Atlanta and Detroit made mistakes throwing a lot of money at them. I think that Detroit needs to find a guy like Treadwell to replace Calvin. Golden Tate, to me, is not a number one receiver. He's a very good complementary number two. He's proven that. He had 1,300 yards 2 years ago, but Detroit is a team that needs to find some star power at receiver, and I think Treadwell would be a nice pick at 16. Is that to me? Do you think Treadwell will fall down at least to 16, or is he a guy that you could see going in the top 10? He's not an Amari Cooper or Sammy Watkins. He's not a once in every 5 years type prospect where you have to jump all over him. But do you think he falls to 16? There's some teams that need receivers in this top 10. I could justify Philadelphia at 8. Baltimore at 6. They need receivers desperately. So do you think he falls? Do you think he falls to out of the top 10?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I really don't have an answer to it.
No, that's the thing. Like, is Treadwell a legit number one? He didn't run the 40 during the combine, so his speed is in question. If he can really take the top off defense, if he can't do that, I'm sorry, but he's not a true number one threat. The Bills. We got to talk about the Buffalo Bills. In this latest mock draft at 19, they have him taking Kevin Dodd, a defensive end out of Clemson. They lost Mari Williams. They're going to Kai Williams.
I don't think you can say that they lost.
No, they didn't lose him, but they definitely need a guy to replace him in that defense. Just thinking about it's crazy how 1 year can really change everything, though, considering how lethal Williams was 2 years ago. And that pass rush, that Bills team was, to me, the best defense in the NFL. I know Seattle was dominant 2 years ago, but Buffalo, they got to 9-7 with Kyle Orton as their starting quarterback. The way they dominated teams was insane to watch. They literally took Aaron Rodgers out of a game, that pass rush. So if they can add a guy like Kevin Dodd to go across from Jerry Hughes, they can replace Williams for a lot cheaper, younger option. So I like that one as well. One other notable pick that I'll go to here is not a whole lot. Will Fuller to the Bengals I like a lot. They need another receiver to go with.
Because they lost Marvin.
Yeah, they lost Marvin and Sanu. The one I really like, though, is Minnesota at 23 getting a John Doxson out of TCU. They got to get Bridgewater some weapons.
Yeah.
They really do. You cannot. Eventually, this offense has got to go to Bridgewater's. I know Peterson is still an incredible running back. He led the league in rushing yards last year again. But this is Bridgewater's time. They're moving indoors, which is definitely going to help him. You have Stephon Diggs, who was a fifth-round pick last year, came out of nowhere and had a really nice season, but you still got to get that other guy across from him, a big threat that can be really big in the red zone. I think Doxson's that guy that could help out Bridgewater a whole lot. Minnesota's a team, to me, look out. They could be like Seattle a few years back where they take that big step and compete for the NFC. That defense, all those young pieces, and Bridgewater in that offense, they can make some damage. They can do some damage, definitely. So we hit most of everything in the NFL. I think it's safe to say we kind of drained it out a little bit there. Before we talk about the NHL, I kind of want to go to the NBA first. The Warriors are continuing to dominate. It just seems like nobody's going to stop him. Steph Curry, to me, has been the most exciting player since Michael Jordan. He really has.
The way that Steph Curry plays, by the way, happy birthday, Mr. Wardell, Stephen Curry. It's just remarkable. It's just...
You have never...
I watch them, and they're running, 1-on-4 fast breaks. And they just pass it. They just get it to Curry, and Curry just shoots it from the logo, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
I love hearing the older guys, say that this isn't the right way to play basketball, and that it can't win. But you've already seen them win a championship based on the 3-point game, and they're not slowing down.
Knicks president Phil Jackson has always said that you cannot win a championship by just 3-pointers, by shooters. Well, and they don't, look what happened last year.
Yeah.
Look what's happening this year. For those of you who are not up to the standings, Warriors are currently 59-6. Yes, 59 wins and 6 losses. They have a .908 winning percentage, and they haven't lost at home since January of 2015.
They're 30-0 this year.
Let me remind you that today is
Wow.
March 14th. It's Pi Day of 2016, and the Warriors haven't lost at home since January of 2015.
It's
And
insane.
What's even crazier? Not only the Warriors are 59-6. The Spurs are only 3.5 games back from the Warriors. So it's not like the
At
Warriors
56-10. And by the way, they're 32-0 at home. They
Yes,
haven't lost at home this year either.
They haven't lost at home this season. So
My
the
God.
fact that's what's amazing. That's what's just mind blowing right now about the NBA. It's the Warriors who are just going absolutely crazy, but nobody is paying attention to San Antonio. San Antonio is only 3.5 games back from first place, so it's not like Golden State. It can just stop playing Golden State basketball. They have to keep playing how they've been playing, or else the Spurs and Pop and Duncan, they're gonna catch up out of nowhere, and then the seeding gets all messed up. Who's going to be number one? Who's going to be number two? Who's going to have home court? Because home court is huge now. Considering again, Golden State hasn't lost at home since January of 2015, and San Antonio is undefeated so far this season at home.
And you've seen Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge really take the reins of that Spurs team, and in despite of all the transition in San Antonio, they're still dominant. It's just and at 3 Oklahoma City, they're 44-22. An incredible year, and they're 15.5 games back of Golden State. That just shows the gap between the top 2 teams and the rest of the Western Conference, and pretty much the rest of the NBA, really. Because the top team in the East, Cleveland at 47-18, they would be the 3rd seed ahead of Oklahoma City, but even they would be way behind Golden State or San Antonio. So I just wish these 2 teams weren't in the same conference, because in NBA Finals, those 2 teams would just be insane. So Cleveland's really the top team. Does Cleveland stand any chance to take down Golden State or San Antonio in the NBA Finals?
No.
I don't think there's a chance.
No, because there's still some inconsistency there in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the Cavs. They're not how can I say this? It looks like with Tyronn Lue in Cleveland compared with David Blatt, it's just not the same. I feel like David Blatt was probably a better coach for the Cavaliers and LeBron James and J.R. Smith, and it's just no. I just don't know.
I agree.
Cleveland is good. I'm not going to take that away from LeBron. LeBron's one of the greatest players to have played in the NBA. But I just don't know. I just don't know right now.
I hate to put you on the spot like this, but does LeBron ever get a championship to Cleveland? I think this is the worst timing for Steph to emerge as a dominant player in the NBA, because everyone thought this was Cleveland's time. LeBron was going to get one, but
he's going to. Even in the commercial, he said it's all about getting one for the land. I don't, because again, I still think that the Toronto Raptors can take down the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Which is what you said last week. You were big on the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean the Raptors are only 2.5 games back on the Cavaliers, and time is winding down in the season.
Another update on the final. We're going to do a playoff picture. If the season ended today, first we're going to start in the East. 1, Cleveland would take on the 8 Detroit Pistons. Detroit has beaten Cleveland 2 of 3 times this year.
The Pistons have actually, since trading for Tobias Harris, have actually pushed the Chicago Bulls out of the playoff picture. Let me remind you that the Bulls were supposed to be the team to challenge LeBron James.
Yeah, it's true.
And Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. So the fact that they're not in the playoff picture is obviously bad news for the Bulls, bad news for Fred Hoiberg, first-year coach, and great news for Tom Thibodeau, who's probably laughing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Toronto at 2 would be set to take on Indiana. The series is tied at 1-1 in the regular season. Boston at 3 would take on Atlanta at 6. A little surprised Atlanta's at 6. I thought they would be higher in the East right now.
Yeah, I saw. I think it was ESPN's Power Rankings. They actually have Atlanta as the 5th best team in the league.
Wow.
Ahead of it was.
Golden State, San Antonio.
Don't quote me on this one, but it's Golden State, San Antonio, Cleveland, Toronto, Atlanta.
Really?
The
Even over
5.
Oklahoma City?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I mean, and they're the 6th seed right now in the East, so that just tells you what they're underachieving. And Miami at 4 would take on the 5 Charlotte Hornets. So that'd be
the Charlotte Hornets right now, led by Kemba Walker, are just on fire. 7 straight wins. Absolutely ridiculous what's going on over there.
Yeah. In the West, Golden State would take on Dallas. 4 Mavericks. having to take on Golden State first.
The Mavericks right now are 33-33 at 500.
Yep.
And they have actually dropped their last 5, just like the Washington Wizards. They have dropped their last 5.
Rough. Spurs at 2 would take on the Houston Rockets at 7. Another team to me that's underperforming this year.
Yes, the Rockets. You always expect a lot out of the Rockets with Dwight Howard and James Harden. But of course, James Harden doesn't play defense.
That's true.
It wouldn't surprise me if San Antonio swept the Rockets.
Oklahoma City at 3 would take on Portland at 6. That's an interesting series to me. I like what Portland brings to the table with Lillard.
I like what Portland brings to the table too. You said Damian Lillard out of Weber State, who actually made the NCAA tournament.
Yes, they did, and we're going to talk about March Madness in a little bit.
I really like what the Trailblazers are doing. They're 5-5 in their last 10 though. They were hotter right out of the All-Star break, and Myers Leonard still has me blocked on Twitter and on Instagram.
That's a great story.
It is.
Clippers at 4 against Memphis at 5. I feel like these teams play in the playoffs like every single year at 4-5. Like,
pretty much.
They're always the 4 and 5th seed.
The Grizzlies, though, let me tell you something about the Grizzlies, because nobody really expected the Grizzlies to be here. They don't have Marc Gasol anymore. He's done for the rest of the season.
Right.
They picked up Lance Stevenson for some weird reason from LA. They are even embracing the role of being quote unquote thugs, because they have Lance Stevenson, who blew into LeBron's ear. They have Matt Barnes, who wanted to rip Derek Fisher's head off. They have Zach Randolph, who has punched Steven Adams during a game. Against the Clippers, who DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul sometimes don't like each other. Blake Griffin punched an equipment manager. It wouldn't surprise me to see a couple of ejections in that series if the playoffs ended today. But again, the Clippers coming off a win against coming off the L against the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday. Or Frank Isola of New York Daily News tweeted this. I thought it was actually kind of funny. Because last night the Knicks and the Lakers were playing at the Staples Center.
Right.
They played 9:30 Eastern. And the Clippers at the Staples Center also were playing against the Cavs at 3:30 Eastern. So Frank Isola tweeted, meanwhile, he was tweeting during the Knicks game, if you missed the championship of the Staples Center tournament, the Clippers, the Cavaliers, they beat the Clippers, and in the consolation game, we have the Knicks and the Lakers, which, if you think about it, consolation games would be before the championship game,
true.
but I get what Frank Isola is trying to say. But we'll see how it comes down.
Some interesting situations. Memphis is going to kind of play the old Pistons role in the 80s and 90s, the bad boys. Give Chicago some time. That's what Memphis is going to try to do here in the West. Maybe do some damage in the West. But again, I can't see any team beating Golden State. But man, a Western Conference Finals between San Antonio and Golden State is going to be incredible to watch. So hopefully that happens, despite any upsets. Can you imagine if Golden State got knocked out of the first round? That would probably be the most disappointing thing in all of sports.
I would probably not even watch the playoffs.
So just heartbreaking. They're just incredible to watch. It doesn't matter what team you root for. That kind of basketball is awesome to watch. I know it's not the kind of way that it's always been, but it's so much fun. And it's to me, when it comes down to it, it's all about entertainment. That really is what it's about. And fans love watching Golden State. They love watching Steph and Clay.
The way that basketball has gone, it went from the triangle offense with the 2000 Lakers, with Shaq and Kobe, and how awesome that was.
Yep.
Then it became...
Which Phil, by the way, tried to bring back in New York.
Yeah, I know, Lou.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to rub it in a little bit.
We're still trying.
Yep, that's true.
Then it became Lob City, what's going on in LA.
Yep.
All the dunks, the alley-oops, all of that. And now it's just a three-point game.
That's true.
What's going on in Golden State. I even saw this one report. If Cleveland can beat Golden State by imitating Golden State, because yesterday when the Cavaliers and the when the Cavaliers and the Clippers were playing, the Cavaliers shot like 39 three-pointers, which is ridiculous.
Right.
It's just so much, and pretty much that's how they play in Oakland.
Yeah, that's true.
The only thing that I don't like about the Warriors is that they are in Oakland. And, it's hard to watch them, especially here on the East Coast. They're always playing.
That's the one problem is they're on.
I'm
Western
up.
time.
I'm up. I'm a college freshman.
True.
So I'm always up, but and I get to have a personal up and close look this coming Wednesday. The Knicks are going to play Golden State at Oracle Arena.
Nice. It might not be all that great for you to watch. But
I mean, I'm still going to watch because I still want to watch Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green.
True.
And I have, that little glimpse of hope.
Yep. Knicks are on a little bit of a roll. 3 of the last 5 they've won.
Yes, they have, my good friend Louis.
What's been the impact, guys, for the Knicks in the past couple of games? Obviously, Calderon hit that game winner against LA.
Yes, Calderon did hit that game winner on yesterday, the 13th. It's been all right for the Knicks. Month of March has been okay considering what's going on. I'll just recap March. They lost to the Trailblazers. That's when Myers Leonard decided to block me on Twitter. They lost to Boston on March 4th, and that was a close game considering the Celtics are right now the 3 seed. They lost. Melo missed a game-winning 3-pointer. I was very dejected that night. The following night, they absolutely pummeled. I wouldn't say absolutely pummeled, but they beat down on the Pistons pretty well at the Garden.
Yep.
The Knicks
gotta
won
get that accent.
102-89. Then they went out to Denver and they played absolutely horrendously against the Nuggets. Then they played Phoenix and they scored a season-high 128 points on the Suns. But me being the Knicks fan, I have to always point out what happened wrong in that game, and that was the fact that Devin Booker, a rookie, scored 32 on us on 14 for 28 shooting.
Wow.
Also, what surprised me that game was Sasha Vujacic. He was going absolutely crazy. He went 6 for 7 from 3, 7 for 8 in total, and he had 23 points, which is a career high for him. Then we lost to the Clippers.
Yep.
No surprise there. And then we beat the Lakers on a game-winning 3-pointer by Jose Calderon. Again, the Knicks are playing Golden State this coming Wednesday. I'll be home, thank goodness, to watch them against the Wizards, who I previously mentioned.
Who were slipping a little bit right now.
They play the Kings as well. The Kings, and if you haven't heard, suspended Boogie Cousins for 1 game for conduct detrimental to the team, and Boogie Cousins actually went out on a limb and said that it wasn't a suspension from the organization. Quote, it was from the head coach.
Him and George Karl have been just headbutting all season.
Yeah.
How do you think that, just real quick, how do you think that pans out after this year? Who's gone?
George Karl.
Yeah.
George Karl's gone. Because you're not just gonna. George Karl is.
Is it on Karl though, or is it really just this what Cousins is?
That's Cousins' personality.
Yeah, and you got to find a coach that can rally around that.
Take
That's true.
DeMarcus Cousins' attitude.
Yeah.
Also with the Knicks, they're gonna have a home and home against the Chicago Bulls.
Yep.
Mid next week.
Which is huge. They can play spoiler, really kind of hurt the Bulls and take them out of contention.
Yes.
I mean, they're slipping right now.
They're slipping,
too.
and
like you said earlier, Detroit took that 8th spot right now. I mean, they're set to take
Chicago's out of the playoffs right now. They'll end the season at versus Cleveland at Madison Square Garden. They'll go on the road one more time to New Orleans and Dallas. But right now, to be honest, this little road trip that the Knicks are on, they look like they're having fun, actually.
And that's what you got to do. I mean, you see Golden State. Golden State's having a blast.
Yes, they are. But not only that, socially, because on Snapchat I follow Kevin Seraphin.
Yep.
And they just look like they're having fun. KP is having fun, even though he didn't play last night. He had a stomach illness. KP looks like he's having fun, which makes me happy as a Knicks fan because he's probably the future.
Oh, definitely.
Kyle O'Quinn is having fun. Kevin Seraphin is out here laughing, and he doesn't get any minutes. He's putting Jose Calderon on Snapchat. He's putting Sasha Vujacic on Snapchat. He's putting KP, Kyle O'Quinn, Jerry and Grant. Only people that I don't really see on the Snapchat stories that Kevin's posting is Melo and Aaron Aflalo. I'm not really sure why.
Yeah.
But it looks like they're having fun, which makes me happy. KP is having fun, makes me happy because, I love that Latvian unicorn. And the Knicks, we're not going to the playoffs. I have come to the realization.
Of course.
But we'll see what happens with the Knicks.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so now we're going to move on to the NHL. I think this is really... It's starting to heat up. The playoffs are right around the corner. Right now, we're going to just do a quick standings update real quick in the East. The Washington Capitals are hanging on with the lead. Well, no, not hanging on. They have a significant lead over the Rangers in the Metropolitan Division with 103 points. The Rangers are behind at 85. They are battling with the Islanders. The Islanders have 82 points and are at the 3rd spot in the Metropolitan. What do you think about the Rangers right now? You're a Rangers fan.
Is this a team that can, once they get into the playoffs, can they compete with a team like Washington? I mean, I don't know how anyone's going to stop the Caps at this point.
The Rangers are incredibly inconsistent right now.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind.
Which is odd. I mean, normally they're one of the most consistent teams in the Eastern Conference for the past 3 years.
I mean, the way...
Longer.
I mean, they had a great game the other night here in Buffalo. I went to the game.
Yep.
They beat the Sabres 4-2. It was a great game.
The
Sabres put up a great fight.
Basically one line, Eichel, Reinhart, Kane has been carrying the Sabres to any sort of relevancy, but we'll get to the Sabres in a minute.
But then the Rangers, they just have brain farts like they did the other night against, when was it, last night? Or 2 nights ago against Pittsburgh. There was this one play where the puck went off of Mark Stahl's skate. It hit his left skate, hit his right skate, and just 5-holed Henrik Lundqvist, which to me absolutely made me, angry. Rangers went on to lose that game. Those are games that the Rangers have to win.
And it's just unlike them, too. With such a team with age and experience, it's a team with a lot of veterans that have been in deep playoff runs before. It's unlike them, and they got to correct that before the playoffs start.
Yeah, those are games that the Rangers have to win because, they have 85 points. Pittsburgh has 80. And those are games, close in the standings that the Rangers just have to win. The Rangers just cannot take any more bad losses the rest of the season, in my opinion.
Tampa Bay's been heating up, too. That's a team I'm really keeping a close eye on, the Atlantic. But right now, Boston's atop that division with 86 points. Florida and Tampa are right behind with 85 apiece. The two Florida teams, to me, are really going to do some damage in the playoffs this year. They got a lot of nice young pieces. I feel like ever since the, post-deadline, the Stamkos rumors and all that stuff has kind of died down a little bit, and it's just allowing Lightning to play right now. And even the Druin distraction earlier on in the year where he refused to play for their AHL team or the Lightning, there's just been a lot of distractions for Tampa, who everyone thought was really going to take that next step this year after losing to Chicago in the Cup Finals last season. I think they're a team that's heating up right now, and it could be very dangerous in the East. Pittsburgh and Detroit are holding on to the wild card spots. Philadelphia's 3 points behind Detroit for the last spot. Carolina's 5. Really, right now, it seems like the East is kind of set. You kind of can tell who's going to be in. It's just now really based on, the seeds. Yeah. So I think it's kind of set in stone already. The Western Conference is where it's kind of the same thing. Dallas, St. Louis, Chicago. That Central Division is just packed. Chicago's third, and to me, they're still the Cup favorite.
Yeah.
LA, Anaheim. Anaheim is an incredible story. They were the worst, they were bottom in scoring in the NHL up until the month of December. People were calling for Bruce Boudreau to be fired, and yet now they're just on a humongous run. They're 37-21-9 now on the season with 83 points. They're only 2 points behind the Kings. Anaheim's back to being the team that can get back to that Western Conference Finals and challenge Chicago or who else gets there. I picked the Ducks to win the Cup for probably the past 4 years, and I'm going to stick to it until they get there because this is a team that they keep knocking on the door, and with all the controversy and all the adversity they've gone through this year, I think this would be just a great story if they can make a run in the playoffs. Nashville and Minnesota right now currently hold on to the final 2 spots, but Minnesota's tied at points with 74 with Colorado, who's right behind them. Colorado's a team that, they got Mikhail Bodker at the deadline from Arizona. They're adding some nice pieces on offense, and if they can heat up with 12 games to go, Minnesota does have a game in hand, but they can push Minnesota, who's dealing with some distractions right now. And I think it would be a great story to see Colorado, who started off, just horribly this year, and everyone was pointing to that trade with Buffalo. You gave up Brian O'Reilly, who's become one of the best two-way forwards in the NHL, and Jamie McGinn, who's on pace to have over 20 goals this year. It's like you got rid of those guys for 2
who's now in Anaheim.
Yeah, exactly. And McGinn's now competing with you in the West. Colorado's a team that's gone through a lot of adversity as well, and they're still making a run at it, being tied with Minnesota. If they can try to, pass them, it would be an incredible story. So Arizona's behind them. They're 7 points back. So, again, that's kind of... You're seeing that the playoffs are kind of shaping up in the NHL right now, where there's not a whole lot of battles besides, Colorado and Minnesota. Everything else kind of seems like it's set in stone. So, the NHL's pretty interesting right now, though. There's some different things going on, by the way. quick lottery update for you too, for the people that for the tanking fans out there. Toronto currently holds the best odds with 20% odds.
I have a question. What's your favorite NHL team?
The Buffalo Sabres.
And what are their odds to win the lottery?
It is 7.5%.
Okay, continue.
The problem, I don't know what you're trying to do there, but they got Eichel already, so I'm not in tank mode like I was last year. This year with the Sabres, by the way, seeing what Eichel has been doing, that 2-goal performance against Carolina, including the game winner on a breakaway with 1 second left in overtime.
Beautiful. And did he 5-hold him? Yeah, he did, right?
Backhand.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing. He misses that. It looks like a really dumb shot selection, but Eichel has just taken a huge step. Him and Reinhart have been incredible together. Since O'Reilly's been hurt and Bilesma put Reinhart, Eichel, and Kane together, they've just, been unstoppable. Eichel has got 22 goals now and 26 assists for 48 points. He's second in the league in scoring for all rookies, behind Panarin, of course, for Chicago, who's having an incredible year. That dude was undrafted. It's just mind-boggling how Chicago gets another prospect like that. But Eichel and even Reinhart, 19 goals, 15 assists for 34 points. This duo is just something that, if you're a Sabres fan, you got to be really excited about. But going back to the lottery real quick, Edmonton's at a 13.5 chance. They're second. If they win the lottery again, I'm done. They landed McDavid last year. They landed Yakupov a few years ago. Nugent Hopkins, Taylor Hall. They just keep winning the lottery, and they're not improving at all.
No.
Because they're ignoring. Want to know why? I think the lottery is actually a huge factor, because they keep winning this lottery, and they keep ignoring the defensive side and goaltending, and they just keep taking these top forwards, and they're not improving on the other side of the ice. So to me, that's huge. And if you win it again, you're not drafting Austin Matthews, who a lot of people said if he was eligible for the draft last year, some people were arguing that Buffalo could have took him over Eichel. I mean, I don't agree with that, but that's the type of level he is at too. He's a generational talent too. I don't want to throw that word around lightly, but I think Matthews is a guy that can come in and be an instant star. He's really done well in the Swedish league, which is one of the tougher pro leagues over in Europe right now. So we're gonna pick the winner. NHLLotterySimulator.com always allows you to see who wins the lottery, so I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do a quick run of the top 3 real quick. Drum roll. Colorado wins the lottery. They land Austin Matthews. Winnipeg at 2, and Edmonton at 3. So
where's Buffalo?
Buffalo is not in it.
I meant in the draft order.
Yeah, they're 7th.
Oh, okay.
Which is not what I'm expecting. To me, if Buffalo wants to get a really good prospect, they got to be at least 5th. To me, the top 3 is going to go. I mean, if Colorado can land Austin Matthews here to go with McKinnon and Landeskog, look out. But to me, the top 3 is going to go Matthews, and then the two Finnish guys, Jesse Puljujärvi and Eleni. Those 2 guys for Finland are going to be incredible. Then at 4, you got Chychrun, Jacob Chychrun, who's probably the best defensive prospect. A lot of people are comparing him to Bogosian, which I don't like that. Physique-wise, he's a big-bodied guy. And then at 5, Matt Tkachuk. So to me, if you're these NHL teams, you got to get at least to 5 to land one of the top
prospects.
Yeah, it's the drop-off, kind of like in the NFL. After 5, that's really where. At 6, there's Nylander, of course, from Mississauga. That's the other top guy. But besides that, Buffalo kind of got gypped there in that lottery simulator. But that's the NHL. By the way, there's a rule coming around right now. The NHL owners are going to be meeting next week. There's a rule proposal that could raise the eligibility of NHL of draftees.
Wow.
So you might have to be 19 to be. The rule I saw was that 18-year-olds can be in the draft, but they would have to be drafted in the first round. So it would keep guys like McDavid and Eichel in it. But if you have a rule like that where you have to be 18 or 19 or older, then Jack Eichel right now is still playing in college. Eichel's got 22 goals right now as a rookie in the NHL. There's no way he belongs in college. There's no way Connor McDavid belongs in Erie right now. He is already one of the best players in the NHL, and I don't stutter on that. I think Eichel and McDavid are already 2 of the most talented players in the NHL, and they're only 18 and 19 years old. I don't like that rule at all.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like in the NFL.
Yeah.
And
you see young guys produce.
Kind of reminds me also of the NBA when you can't, they stopped the rule about being drafted straight out of high school.
LeBron was drafted out of high school. Are you going to take away guys like that because they aren't 19? I don't agree with that. I really don't.
Also, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Who's your rookie of the year in the NHL?
Ooh. This is tough. The homer in me says Eichel, but he's often this year, hit that rookie wall where, you've seen him slow down. There's been like a 15-game stretch where he's kind of disappeared a little bit, and then he heats up again like this past month. The month of February and the month of March right now, Eichel's been unstoppable. I don't want to say Panarin. I'm going to say McDavid. And Panarin's been playing with Pat Kane the entire year on that line. Granted, Panarin's had an incredible year, but he has definitely benefited from Pat Kane, who's the leading scorer in the NHL. Mm-hmm. No doubt. Connor McDavid is averaging almost more than a point a game. He did get injured in the winter, which really sidelined him from winning the Calder, but there's no guy that's been more impactful. Winning-wise, yes. Besides Panarin, none of the rookies are having a lot of success in winning teams, besides Dylan Larkin of Detroit. But what McDavid has done in the limited amount of time, I was there in person to see him upend Eichel and beat him in overtime. He scored with 20 seconds in, and then he scored the game winner after Eichel missed his opportunity on a one-on-one. McDavid finished it. And you just see what McDavid has done this year and how far ahead, he is than anyone else in the rookie class, including Eichel. I really think McDavid should win the Rookie of the Year, just based on the sample size of what he's done this year. 14 goals and 21 assists for 35 points, and he's played 34 games. So it's over a point a game. And it's incredible. Who do you think should win the Rookie of the Year? Do you think it's McDavid, or do you like Panarin? Or someone else?
I actually think it's somebody else. I really do like what Jack Eichel has done.
I love it.
I really do like what Jack
And you're an
Eichel
unbiased analyst right now too, so
yeah, because it's not like it's a Ranger,
you're
or
a Ranger
Devil, or an Islander that's going for it. It's either to me it's two-headed race between McDavid and Eichel.
And you've seen Eichel in person a lot this year too.
Yeah, I have, and now whenever I went to go see Eichel at the First Niagara Center, it's just amazing what he does.
Yeah,
I think if Connor McDavid was healthy the whole season, though, we'd have a bigger sample size, see if he hits that rookie wall like Eichel has.
That's a good point. Okay, I like that.
And, we'll see. We would have seen, how McDavid could have done with, more games played.
Absolutely. That's a good point. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I would love to see Eichel win it all, but that's the NHL.
Wait, I still have one more thing to say.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If for those of you who haven't heard, just some NHL news. Chicago Blackhawks right winger Patrick Kane, who is actually
we do have to talk about this.
A Buffalo, New York native, will not be disciplined by the National Hockey League and Commissioner Gary Bettman. For those of you who don't know, Kane was accused of rape during the offseason outside of his home in Buffalo by a woman in her 20s. Erie County District Attorney Frank Sedita ruled against pursuing charges against Kane, who is only 27, by citing lack of evidence. The accuser also signed an affidavit saying she does not want to press charges. Patrick Kane was the number 1 overall pick in 2007. He has won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years with Chicago, and as you mentioned, he leads the NHL in points.
What do you think? I mean, I don't like to get into a whole lot of like the legal matters, but from what it sounds like, there wasn't really a whole lot in the case, so you really couldn't take a whole lot, and her not pressing charges obviously says a lot.
Yeah.
So that's really all I had to say in the matter, but it's definitely huge though that he's not being charged, because that was a huge distraction. I remember in the offseason, a lot of people were saying, is Chicago going to part ways with Kane? There really was. I mean, I posted an article on SaberStop.com asking if Pat Kane could be traded, and if it was just a stupid scenario, but if Buffalo could make a trade for him, because there was legit talks that Chicago might be moving on from Kane. And good thing they didn't do that, considering how incredible he has been this year. But that's definitely big news. So
also, Evander Kane.
Another Kane.
It's in
the news, not for hockey reasons, though.
Evander Kane was also accused of rape.
Yep.
This one during the season.
Yes, it was.
But I do believe that the NHL wasn't going to discipline Mr. Kane.
So there we go. Both Kanes are in the clear. So that's the NHL. Before we get going here on the Lou and Manny Podcast, episode number 2 here on 91.3 FM WBNY Sports Network, we got to talk about March Madness.
My favorite time of the year.
Yes, this is a fun time. I don't even know where to start, though. There's so many different matchups that we could talk about. Obviously, being natives here at Buffalo. I am, but we both go to school here at Buffalo State, fellow college out here in Western New York, University of Buffalo. UB has made it. The Bulls are in it as a 14 seed. They take on the 3rd seed Miami Hurricanes in the March Madness bracket. This is the 2nd year in a row where UB has made it. First time that a defending MAC champions went back-to-back to get into the tournament. And to me, it's incredible. The story behind it is awesome. You know, their star player gave up on him, followed Bobby Hurley to Arizona State.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of loss that they dealt with, even the players, their coach's wife has cancer. You know, a lot of their players have lost family members this year, and yet through all of that, you know, they made the bracket for a 2nd year in a row when most people were saying this team was going to be a dumpster fire this year. It's an incredible story to watch. Even ESPN was picking up on the story, saying that this is a team that a lot of people are going to root for in the tournament.
Yeah.
It's a nice story.
Well, not only am I rooting, although the fact Buffalo got a tough draw against Miami to open up the
yeah, it's a tough matchup.
because I have Miami actually going to the Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, not only is Buffalo just a great story, you know, me living here in Buffalo,
Yeah.
actually, the basketball coach at my high school, New Rochelle High School,
Yeah.
he played for UB.
Oh, wow.
Way back
Okay.
then. Shout out Coach Krabby. But you know, it's definitely tough for Buffalo considering that they're playing Miami. Definitely something to watch for though. I'll just give you a quick little team summary
Awesome.
about the UB Bulls according to ESPN. The Bulls are back in the tournament after giving West Virginia a scare last year as a 12th seed. This is a very different team though, as freshmen and transfers are among the biggest contributors. Buffalo is a balanced team that competes on the glass but sometimes gets sloppy with the ball. After struggling with three-point accuracy most of the season, which is ironic because a 3 got them into the tournament,
Yep.
the Bulls appear to be peaking at the right time. But again, like I said, a very tough draw. Not only being, you know, in the same, you know, opening against Miami, but there's also great teams there in Villanova and Iowa
Yep.
and in Kansas. And UConn, which has, you know, appeared out of nowhere. Maryland, what's going on over there, Melo Trimble. It's just amazing what's going on there.
Yeah, so it's a nice story for UB. What are some of your surprises? I mean, you were talking about it before the show that you think that the committee got it wrong having Oregon as a number 1 seed. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean,
did you not expect them to be 1?
no, I didn't. I did not expect Oregon to be a number 1 seed. I expected Michigan State to be a number 1 seed. They are a number 2 seed
Yep.
in the where are they?
They're down here
In the
Midwest
Midwest bracket.
They're set to take on Mid-Tennessee, who's a 15.
Yeah, they're gonna take on Mid Tennessee in the Midwest. I don't quite understand that. There's a lot of things that, in my opinion, that the committee got wrong. They were talking about placement, for example, in the East. They could have had Philadelphia, they could have had Villanova in the South region, you know, in the Elite Eight playing in Philadelphia.
Yep.
That would have been practically a home game.
Yep.
There are just a bunch of mess ups here. Teams that I feel like should have gone into the tournament. St. Bonaventure had a great
Yes,
season.
thank you. I was going to mention them. Another
Monmouth-
team around this area.
Monmouth also had an amazing season. In my opinion, I don't think where is it? Syracuse.
I was just going to
I
mention
don't think Syracuse should be.
They're a 10 seed. They're set
Yeah.
to take on Dayton, who's a 7 seed in the Midwest.
Also,
I was surprised Syracuse got in. I really did.
yeah,
I thought Bonaventure should have gotten in over them. Granted, Syracuse did beat Bonaventure this year. I think Bonaventure really had to win their conference, but
Tulsa. The fact that Tulsa is in the tournament over Monmouth is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Monmouth had a great season in the MAC. It's not the Mid-American. It's the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference.
Yes.
I think Monmouth should have been in. They caught a tough break playing Iona. Iona will play Iowa State.
Yes.
Look out for Iona. You know, Iona is a school in my hometown, New Rochelle, very close to my high school. Iona, led by AJ English, is a team that you need to look out for. I do have them losing to Iowa State in the first round, in round 64. But it's going to be close because the way that Iona plays, I really do like the way that the Gales play.
Right. Florida Gulf Coast is a team. If they get in, they would take on UNC, the number 1 seed. But Florida Gulf Coast had a couple. Their upset over Georgetown a few years back was still one of the top moments or memories I have of, incredible March Madness games. If they can get in, to me that's someone I'm circling as an upset alert. There's some matchups here that you can definitely see the lower seed taking it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I actually have my Cinderella this year.
Yeah, who is
would
it?
probably have to be Stephen F. Austin again.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Stephen F. Austin last year to make it to the Elite Eight, I believe, before they got bounced in the round of 32. Also, another Cinderella story. I wouldn't really say, because of the past few years, the 5 and 12 games have always ended with the 12 winning. The 5 and 12 seed, it always ends with the 12 winning.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 and 12 games this year are Maryland against South Dakota State.
Yep.
Again, I like what Melo Trimble brings to the Terps. I don't think there's going to be an upset there. Another 5 against 12 is Indiana against Chattanooga. Indiana, led by Yogi Ferrell, is just a great team. And Purdue against Arkansas Little Rock. Purdue is a great team as well. So my upset for the 5 and 12 is actually Yale over Baylor.
Ooh, okay.
The way that Yale has been playing, they won the Ivy League. It's the first time that they're in the dance since '62.
Wow.
JFK was president at the time. So, March Madness. Another school that I really like is St. Joe's.
Okay.
St. Joe's, I have them beating Cincinnati. I don't think they'll get past Oregon, but St. Joe's, they did very well in the A10 tourney. Langston Galloway, a Knick player, he's a graduate of St. Joe's. But of course, I come down to this. I already did my bracket. I have my Final Four. Not much Cinderellas here. My Final Four, I have Kansas beating Oklahoma, and I have Michigan State beating North Carolina. And in the championship game, I have Michigan State beating Kansas. I really do like Denzel Washington and Tom Izzo. That combination is just absolutely electrifying to me.
Right.
There's just something that goes on in East Lansing when it comes to sports, whether it's football or basketball. It's
That's
just
true.
amazing. They have this amazing fan base due the Spartans, and starts
Honestly,
with.
they got gypped. I thought they were gonna take it all last year.
Yeah, so did I. They have this great fan base led by former players in Draymond Green and Irvin Magic Johnson.
Yep.
So that's March Madness for me. I love this time of year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I remember 2 years ago, Hampton, I believe it was Hampton, was playing Ohio State. I think I'm not.
What was it? Yeah, I think.
Oh no, it was Dayton against Ohio
Dayton,
State.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was Dayton.
and my teacher actually let us watch it during a test. It was the final seconds. So it's March Madness. I love this time of year. Maybe won't go to classes because of March Madness, or maybe I'll just be watching them in my classroom. But
True.
I love this time of year. A team that I forgot to mention,
Yeah.
Seton Hall.
Oh yeah.
Really like what's
Same
going
here.
on in South Orange. They played very well in the Big East tournament. They beat. It's slipping right now.
Yeah, I'm losing it.
But Seton Hall, they're doing very well. I have them in the Sweet 16. A lot of surprise teams, to be honest, in the Sweet 16. Maryland, I have, who's a 5 seed. Stephen F. Austin, who's a 14 seed.
Okay.
Purdue, who's a 5 seed, and Seton Hall, who's a 6 seed. It's March Madness. You got to take these
That's true.
Cinderella
Stuff
stories.
is going to happen. The top teams aren't going to win every game. A team that I really like, and there might not be a team in the tournament that is more talented than Cal, but they had 11 losses this year, which really surprised me. And I think Hawaii's a team as a 13 coming into the South. They could do some damage and really give Cal some trouble. But I think if Cal can get over the hump in the first round, I think that if they can really generate some steam and get hot at the right time in this tournament, that they could really do some damage. Because like I said, I don't think there's a team with as much talent as Cal does. Really, they got a lot of nice young pieces in that on that team. If they won, they would end up taking on the winner of South Dakota State versus Maryland. So they got their work cut out for them. But I think Cal's another team that's really interesting to watch. Villanova, they're the second ranked. They're a 2 seed in the South region.
I'm going to tell you something about
They
Villanova.
always, I mean, they just
get
always
upset.
choke.
They always
That's the
get
thing.
upset.
They always come in as one of the top seeds in the bracket, and they just always seem to blow it. They just never seem like they can make a deep run, and I don't know what's going to change this year.
I have Nova losing in the Sweet 16 to Miami, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Iowa beat them in the round of 32.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes with Villanova.
Granted, Temple doesn't beat them, another fellow Philadelphia school.
Yeah, Temple and Villanova could play each other.
Yeah, which would be really cool. But so I mean that's March Madness. It's such an exciting time though. I mean there's nothing like March Madness really. Some of the one seeds, Oregon, Virginia. Are there any shockers to you besides Oregon? I mean, who do you think besides you don't think Syracuse should have gotten him though?
I don't think Syracuse should have gotten in.
What's another team you think
Tulsa.
that got gypped? I mean, that shouldn't have been in.
That should have been in.
No, shouldn't have.
Oh, shouldn't.
I mean, there's some Stony Brook. What do you think? I mean, as a 13.
Well,
oh no, they won their conference.
Yeah, Stony Brook won their conference.
Yeah.
They won the Big East.
I don't see any other.
Not the Big East. They won the Big America.
Green Bay made it.
Green Bay, the Phoenix, the Green Bay Phoenix. Yeah, they won their conference.
Yep.
Let me look for
some of these schools. Honestly, I'm going to be honest. I've never even heard of.
Yeah, that's the beauty
cool
about March
about it,
Madness.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's a great story. Cal State Bakersfield were a Division II team a couple of years ago. Now they're dancing.
Yep.
And the way that they won their tournament was on a buzzer beater. I was watching it live. I was FaceTiming, and I just went absolutely crazy. It's just an amazing time. And there are these schools that you don't hear. You know, Austin Peay, South Dakota State, teams that you don't even know. UNC Asheville. I didn't know UNC Asheville was a Division I school.
Knew that.
There's a school that's going to play in. It's called Southern. Just Southern. Southern University. That's it. Also a great story. Southern is
Oh
going...
yeah, they would play Oregon if they get in.
Southern, yeah, if they're a 16 seed. What also... the other thing that I love about March Madness, Holy Cross. Holy Cross did not win an away game during conference play during the season. Conference tournament came around. They played 4 straight away games. They won all of those games, and they're dancing. Which just goes to show, if you don't do well in the during the regular season, once tournament time comes, you can absolutely just ball out and make the field of 68.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you will have to play in to play in the round of 64, but that's just what's amazing about it. And continuing, UNC Wilmington, Green Bay, CSU Bakersfield, Florida Gulf Coast was is a relatively young school.
Yeah, they are. They were a D2 school, I think.
The Florida Gulf Coast was actually found. We're a little bit younger than Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I don't even think they've even been around that long.
Yeah, I think the school was established sometime in the 90s.
Right.
So, Stony Brook.
And they weren't D1 until I think it was 2012.
A couple of years
and they
ago.
made the tournament in 2013, I believe, or 2014. But I mean, they were fairly young in the D1.
D1 teams.
Yeah. So and they got in and they upset Georgetown. So you just never know what can happen. And they're a team right now that's hoping to get in too. So give me a winner. Do you have someone right now that you think is a favorite to take the entire bracket?
Well, I said Michigan State.
Michigan State?
I really do like what Michigan State. It has Denzel Washington, Tom Izzo. I'll reiterate that. They're absolutely great team. I think maybe Denzel Washington is not, NBA star.
Mm.
But, there have been many players like that. Let's take Jimmy Fredette as an example. Just absolutely went bananas in BYU.
Yep.
Took him to the, I believe he took him to the Sweet 16, if not the Elite 8. And... now he's a star, but he's in the D League playing for the Westchester Knicks.
True.
Denzel Valentine is a great player. He will go down, in my opinion, as one of the greatest Michigan State players to play, but not in the NBA, of course, like a Draymond, like a Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
But I really do like Michigan State.
Okay. I'm a guy. I like Michigan State as well. It's hard to bet against Kentucky and John Calipari.
Yeah.
What they do, just a winning culture. They always seem to get it done. They take on Stony Brook in the first round.
That's also something that bothered me.
What?
With the seeding.
Yeah.
Kentucky won the SEC tournament.
And
they are a 4th seed. The team that they beat.
And their coach, Calipari, was livid. On his interview on ESPN, he was bashing the committee.
Yeah, because I understand what he's trying to say. Kentucky won the SEC tournament, and they're a 4 seed. The team that they beat, Texas A&M, is a 3 seed.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. The committee got it wrong this year. It's getting worse and worse, to be honest, with the committee. But I'm pretty sure once first four starts, we're just going to forget about it and just focus
that's very
on
true.
this.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Because for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be very upset with this bracket. Always happens.
Yeah, that's true. I had a little bit of success last year, but most of the time it's more frustration than it is joy in the March Madness bracket.
Last year with my first bracket, I had Villanova winning it all.
I did too. I'm not joking. I had Nova winning it all too, so you're not alone.
I printed it out, and I was like, no, and I had to redo it.
I had two brackets. I had Nova winning the one and Duke winning the other, so I did get the one right.
I did hear that you entered a pool here on campus, and you picked who to be your national champion?
Kentucky.
Okay.
I did.
Then I also heard a little rumor about you picking UB to win it all.
No, that was a joke. UB though, I'm dead serious though. I don't want to be a homer here, but I think they have a chance to upset Miami. Obviously, you have Miami going to the Sweet 16?
Yes.
I think that they're a team that can make a deep run, but
Elite Eight.
Just the story UB's riding on, I think, they really gave West Virginia a run for their money last year. They only lost by 6, and I think this team is someone that can give Miami some trouble, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I picked Kentucky to take it all. I think that they're going to do it, but
for those of you wondering, Miami and Buffalo will play on March 17th at 6:50 on TNT.
There we go.
Miami against UB.
Which is going to be awesome.
Miami is a 14-point favorite.
Okay, so I might pick the upset. I think I'm leaning towards it. You gotta have fun with this bracket.
Yeah,
too.
you gotta have fun.
Especially when Buffalo's in it, you gotta definitely make a run for it. So,
or like for me with Iona.
Exactly.
Right there, near my home.
When schools are right around you, it's super fun to have a team in this bracket. Too bad Buff State's only a D3 school.
Yeah.
But I think that's gonna do it today for the Lou and Manny Podcast, episode number 2. Let's give our Twitter plugs. Follow me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk. You can also check out my posts at saberstop.com and bltdsports.com. Also check me out on 91.3 FM WBNY, Buffalo Blitz in the NFL offseason. Manny, where can they find you on Twitter and some other areas? Also, we're both on the record.
Yeah,
BuffStateRecord.com.
We're both on the record. I write. I cover the track team here at Buff State.
And I'm covering the lacrosse right now.
You can find me on Twitter at E_Rodriguez, RODRIGUEZ _24. That's E_Rodriguez_24. 24 is my favorite number.
Tweets a lot about the Knicks. Just warning. I tweet a lot about the Eagles, so there's another warning.
If I'm not tweeting about the Knicks, I'm usually arguing with my friends.
About the Giants or
the
Knicks.
Or I'm probably arguing with Lou.
Yep, true, about Eagles versus Giants. But so that's going to do it. Again, make sure to check us out on YouTube at WBNY Sports Network. This was the Lou and Manny Podcast on 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo. Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. Brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. Have a good night.